Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming this evening, this October 11th, 2022, for the Blowing Rock Town Council meeting. I'm calling this meeting to order. First thing we'll do is roll call. Albert Gantz.
Present.
David Harwood.
Here.
Melissa Pickett.
Here.
Doug Matheson.
Here.
And yes, sir. What do we call him at the end?
Nick.
Pete.
That'll do. Here.
All right, everybody's in attendance. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, council, approval of minutes, September 13th, 2022, regular and closed sessions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Sorry.
Any discussion? Albert? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And Pete?
Aye.
Okay. All right, on the regular agenda adoption, council, we need to add to the regular agenda, the consent for capital equipment bid, police cars, chippers, and other equipment. Are you all in agreement to that?
Yeah.
The regular or
That'll be the regular agenda. Yeah, we were going to put it on consent, but we were informed that Mr. Mosley, that he felt like it was best suited on a regular agenda, correct? I'm sorry, Alan. Alan, yeah.
You just added it, right?
Yes.
Yes.
We were going to put it on consent, but I understood it was best to put it on regular agenda.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Alan. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the revised agenda?
so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Howard? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And Pete? Aye. Okay, regular agenda provision has been approved. All right, under consent agenda, History Wall, adding a number 21 station, budget amendment 2022-13. Fireworks for Chatola Wedding, tax release 2022-1. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we cannot discuss what's on consent, so Albert? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And Pete?
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda is approved. Do we have anybody that signed up for public comments? Now, this is not for the public hearing, this is just strictly for public comments. Okay. Moving right along. Now we're moving into the Blowing Rock Ale House project, and I will defer to Mr. Kevin Rothrock, and we'll open this.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I would like to request to recuse myself.
Yes, sir.
My firm is the architect of record for this project.
Greatly appreciate that. That's admirable. Let us know what you have for dinner.
Can I bring anything?
Thanks, Dave.
Milky Way.
All right.
Approved. Charlie. Sure.
No, he, if a council member made a motion to have him recused, then we would have to second it and approve it.
But he volunteered.
He volunteered. So,
It's good.
isn't that correct, Alan? So, yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Sure.
All right. Okay, Kevin, lead it off.
Mayor. This is conditional rezoning of property on general business, and it would be conditional zoning, general business, at the same underlying zoning district as for Blowing Rock Brewery or Blowing Rock Brewing Company. They're requesting this rezoning on a vacant property in the corner of, southwest corner of Highway 321 and Evanston Road. Property is 4 acres. The proposed brewery will be a production facility, but will also serve beer in the draft house. With this project, a light manufacturing facility, there are limitations in the land use ordinance related to the type of potential negative impacts associated with manufacturing. Limitations include A, smoke cannot emit from any vent that is visible to the naked eye. B, annoying or disruptive noise that cannot be generated outside of the lot. C, no vibrations detected beyond the property. D, no generation of odors beyond the property. E, cannot require more than a daily average of 200 gallons of water per employee. And they're expecting now at least 8 employees, and will probably be more. And they cannot create electrical disturbances. The applicant would have to demonstrate through their plans and what they submit that they meet those criteria prior to issuing a permit. From your staff report, there are a couple of changes I'll go through. The street setback on 321 and Evanston Road is 20 feet. I originally had 40 feet, and that was based on the height of the building. They had it 36 feet 9 inches. It's now at 35. So the standard setback would be 20 feet. And then on the perimeter, it would be 8 feet around the perimeter of the property. To go back a little bit, I think you know where the site is at the corner of 321 and Evanston Road, and this is a view of it from the parkway. This is the site. This shows the stoplight there at Evanston Road. I didn't mention the building height. It is 35 feet. That's the max. I will point out some of the architectural designs in just a moment. Let me speak to access. The primary ingress and egress access to the site will be through a driveway cut on 321. There is a driveway cut there now. And then the secondary exit is planned on the Evanston Road, and there's a driveway cut there as well. DOT will have to approve both of these driveways on both streets. And if a driveway cut on the Evanston Road is not approved by DOT, access from 321 is still adequate based on the sufficient turning radius for delivery trucks, garbage trucks, and fire vehicles. I think the next slide shows that. Vehicles coming in still have adequate room to turn back into the loading facility or the loading dock and leave the site heading southbound. Ideally, an access for vehicles to come out onto Evanston Road would provide access to the light so they could turn left to head back to Boone. But again, we will reserve that for DOT's judgment, and the applicant can work with DOT on getting that approved. There were some issues with site distance heading back up Evanston Road, and they would have to do quite a bit of grading to peel that corner or that part of the right-of-way back. Based on the proposed use, the project requires, this thing is loud, really loud. The project requires 1 parking space for every 2 employees on the maximum shift, plus space for the draft house. So being that there's 8 to 10 employees proposed on the maximum shift, that would be 4 to 5 parking spaces, and the additional 13 spaces based on the square footage for the draft house services. So 23 spaces required. They're providing 33 on the project. We've not received detailed stormwater drainage, but we've talked with the engineer, and the town engineer is comfortable with their ability to provide stormwater detention for the project and then be able to tie that into the public drainage on 321 and Evanston Road. So we'll review those in detail before construction begins and grading activity begins. As far as utilities, the project will have a sewer pump that will meet North Carolina Building Code and the town's utility code requirements installed and then connected to the force main on the property in front of on 321. Also at this time, the applicant is preparing to install a well to meet the project's water needs. A well permit will be authorized by Appalachian District Health. If public water is available to this project in the future, the applicant would like to reserve the option of making a connection at that time. For either utility services, the property will need to be annexed into the town, and an annexation application will be required, or the town, we need to receive that before the project can begin land disturbing. And so that was something we discussed with the applicant. We need the application, and then we'll go through the process for annexation, which is about a 2-month process. Garbage collection for the site, there'll be a dumpster enclosure on the left side of the site near the loading bay. You see it right here, loading bay here, and then here's the dumpster enclosure. And garbage trucks can get to that. Of course, it's provided by Republic now instead of the town. The site is heavily wooded except for the front area where they're going to actually put the building. The rest of it up the hill is heavily wooded. There will be a detailed landscape plan that will be provided and reviewed before construction. And based on the discussions with the engineer and the applicant, they will not have any problem meeting those criteria. Shade trees for the parking area, but much of the project will be hidden from view if you're heading northbound because the parkway land and the vegetation that's on the parkway or the parkway property. As part of the conditional rezoning application, the applicant has requested elimination of the required landscaping between the parking lot and the building so they can make sure that they've got plenty of turning room. And the ordinance requires it between these parking spaces and the building. And they like the flexibility to leave that out so that they can ensure they've got free flow of traffic there. But this is the area that'll be landscaped pretty heavily with some trees and then also back in here. We'll go back to the building design. So as you can see in the drawing, standing metal seam roof, heavy timber posts and beams. They have a composite paneling that they're planning to add, composite wood siding, cultured stone, and then solar panels to maximize solar energy potential for the site. And then also a condition that they're asking for some waiver on is our code requires a 6 and 12 minimum pitch for commercial buildings, and they're asking for a 3 and 12. And you can see the design that they have. If they went steeper, then it would drive the height of the building up. And Adrian Tate's here, and he can explain more detail about the building design. But they would like to do that 3 and 12, and you still see that it's a good design for the site or for the building, and it fits the site well.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
the landscaping they do not want to put in place, where would that be, the reference?
It'd be right here, between the parking spaces and the building.
Thank you.
So the applicant, in summary of the applicant's proposed conditions, that is one of the reasons for conditional zoning. Roof pitch allowed at 3 and 12 instead of 6 and 12. Solar panels ultimately approved by staff, and council adopted an ordinance. We amended that a couple of months ago, that it would be staff approval, but you are reviewing the project at this time anyway. Landscaping omitted from the area between the parking lot and the building. A waiver of the sidewalk requirement, because our code requires sidewalks along the public street, but they would like to postpone that until such sidewalks are built in the area. And then the town would require that at that time to construct sidewalks. And that the town used to do that on 321 when it was just 2-lane, and that was very common in approving projects out there. And then finally, a request to allow up to 3,000 gallons of water of usage per day. There was a neighborhood meeting back in June 29th, when the applicant shared their vision for the property and answered questions at that time. Planning Board met July 21st, and they recommended approval of the proposed conditional rezoning and the project conditions. Provided an ordinance for you in your packet. Exhibit A, which is a map of the property. Exhibit B, the list of conditions. Councilmember Harwood provided a letter for the project with list of conditions, neighbor letters, petition was included, and then the site and grading plans and everything else. I think you received from Hillary an email from Dr. Davis today, and updated. I think what I provided you was his original letter. I think he was the petitioner and had other members of the Evanston Road community sign on. But then this letter was emailed today, and I think you received that by email. I know you may have some questions for me, I'd be glad to answer. And then if I can't, I know that the project team can do that. So,
Pete?
Kevin, have you had any feedback from the DOT as to which way they might be leaning in terms of Edmondson or 321?
nothing on 321. I think some of the emails that I reviewed, there was some concern with that stretch lead from the driveway this way. As you know, that slope comes down to the ditch, almost no ditch on the corner of Edison. So what they typically like to see is a clear area as you're looking back up the road to be able to pull out. So how that's done and the engineer can address that, we don't
Are
know.
there any traffic counts available for Edmondson?
There might be, I don't know how recent they are.
So DOT will make sure that there's good visual approach and departure at both locations, so there's not a visual issue.
Yes, they approved the driveway permit, and so the full design plans they review those, and before they issue or allow construction, DOT is responsible for that.
Kevin, I know we had talked, was there any consideration given into making a turn lane from the egress all the way down to 321?
You mean here?
Right,
No.
just
I-
a lane coming all the way down from that driveway to the red light to make it a little easier on the backup that it gets right there.
I hadn't discussed that at all. And
Is that a
I don't-
DOT issue? That would.
They would have to talk to the OT, but it'd also be with them in that service.
I haven't, but the applicant may be able to address that.
Well, no, I'll wait until after it gets up.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Wait, this. Just
So we will be voting for the project with 4 waivers. Is that, am I to understand that?
5 conditions.
landscaping,
5 conditions.
pitch of-
Roof pitch, solar panels,
Oh, okay, solar panel.
yeah. This was written and requested before you changed the ordinance. But it's still a condition, that's part of what they were asking. Yes, sir.
So you're now the solar man.
I'm solar guy. Yes, sir.
That's what we'll be voting on. It'll be we don't have to identify each 5. I mean, we just vote for the project. They're
So
included.
that's right. You're approving an ordinance.
Where you can remove or require. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
If you, since they propose these conditions, they have to agree if you're going to change a condition. Because they propose. That's what, about conditional zoning, the applicant has to agree.
Okay.
But you are approving an ordinance that establishes a specific zoning district for that piece of.
Okay.
Council? Continue with the public hearing.
I'll make a motion, we open the public hearing.
Second?
Second.
All right. Now,
I'm not here.
okay. Moving right along. Now, if you would like to speak, I'd ask that you come up to the podium, give your name and your address. If there's questions that you have for Kevin Rothrock or the developers, that's fine, and we will have them come up as well and answer your question at the podium. So if you would like to speak, Mr. Greider, would you like to come up and speak, sir? You want, Mr. Greider, we're going to do the presentation from the developers first, okay?
Well, thank you, Kevin.
Name, address.
Jeff Walker, 424 Creekstone Drive, Banner Elk. First of all, thank you, Mayor Sellers and council members for your time this evening. Back in 2008, my friend Todd and myself founded Blowing Rock Brewing Company, and it was several years before we had built our distribution to the point where we could open the Blowing Rock Ale House in 2013. Some of you will recall that that was the first, I think, manufacturing purpose property within the town of Blowing Rock, at least for some time. I don't know if forever, but so this all brings back fond memories. In 2014, we our brand grew, and we built a production brewery in Hickory, and that's where we do our canning for statewide distribution. We're 100% locally owned and operated, so that means we're not part of Anheuser-Busch or anything like that. We don't intend to be ever. And we take pride in that we're 100% North Carolina owned, and we're community residents. We employ over 70 people, combination mostly here in the High Country, but also in Catawba. And as of today, we're in about 1,000 accounts statewide, and that includes 150 Harris Teeters and the Lowe's food stores, Publix, et cetera. And it's taken, as you can imagine, we've had to work really hard at achieving that level of distribution in our state. But by virtue of us succeeding on that level, we now today have what we call a destination brand. And so the Blowing Rock identity is very clear and present around the state in this kind of for our beer brand. And we found that brings a lot of people back to the mountains. It brings a lot of people to Blowing Rock as a destination, because we are really in kind of almost like a travel and tourism type industry, a lot like the wine industry is, and the wineries in Napa Valley and what have you. And I think I think we all know probably about the destination appeal of the craft brewing business in North Carolina. So even since we've opened in 2013, we've seen lots of younger people coming to Blowing Rock, and families, and we have to remember that the 20-somethings turned into 30-somethings, and then they're pushing strollers on, up Sunset and Main Street. So they'll come and stop and see us and do some shopping or whatever, and then go back home to wherever they might live and buy our products in the stores. We also have a terrific local following here, both in Blowing Rock and in Watauga in general. We're very much a friends and family oriented brand, so we're not the types who like to do late night hours, and it's about camaraderie. The term pub is actually public house, and it's where people used to get together and share their thoughts or views, or with friends or neighbors or what have you. And so we're very much in that tradition of being friends and family oriented. One thing I'd like to point out, despite being in the industry that we're in, and we've been here in Blowing Rock since 2013. We opened in June of 2013, and just for the record, we've never had any type of let's just say alcohol-related issue ever since we've opened in 2013. And I think that speaks, and that's in an industry that's fairly well regulated. And so I'm fairly certain the local police here would agree with that too. And so, you know, I really credit our business model and our business ethic with that record of performance. It's not the easiest thing to achieve, but that's just the way we run our business. It's also the way that we will pursue this new opportunity, you know, with our plans here. I'm very proud of our business and what we've created over the past 10 or 12 years. And I look forward to talking more with you about it tonight. Adrian, are you gonna, actually Devin, you're gonna take us through some of the site planning, right? On the location, right? And the site is obviously on the corner of Evanston and 321. This is what I think is either officially known or commonly known as the ETJ. Is that right? And so we've pretty much laid out our site plans so that we can achieve our brewing needs as well as having an on-premise tap room, so to speak. And but in so doing, we've needed to utilize pretty much every square inch of the land there that's accessible, because even though it's a 4-acre piece of land, it's very rocky and hilly. So Devin's done a terrific job, and he'll take you through that site plan.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mayor and council members. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm thankful for Jeff and his ownership team for allowing us to be a part of the project. As Jeff said, my name is Devin Staley with Blue Ridge Engineering out of North Wilkesboro. I'll try to flip to our site plan here. Kevin did a great job sharing with you and explaining the site plan. I'll try to address some of the questions that have already been asked regarding the site plan. So, as was mentioned by Jeff, this is a challenging site topographically. Yes, it's about 4 acres, but there's really only somewhere around 3/4 of an acre, I would say, that's developable land there on the corner of Evanston and Blowing Rock Road. So we've situated the site, given the setbacks, the challenges of laying the site out with the setbacks, and had the building, toward the back left. There will be some retaining walls that are incorporated into the building. The back wall of the building, the majority of the retaining walls on the property will be incorporated into the building. As far as access goes, we are proposing two-way access on 321. It'll be right in, right out access just because of the center median that's existing there today. And then an exit only, as was mentioned, on Evanston Road. So the Evanston Road exit only would allow folks that are there to leave, exit, get to the stoplight, and make a left turn to get back toward Boone to the north without having to go south on 321, make a U-turn to head back that direction. So it does provide better access to the site, better egress out of the site to have that additional driveway. Now, as was mentioned, the DOT, we will be required to submit driveway permits for each driveway to NCDOT. And part of that process, they evaluate the site distance, which was already mentioned, the storm drainage and how we're going to handle the drainage to keep water from flowing out of our driveways onto DOT roads. And then also the grading and the profile of the driveway to make sure the driveways aren't too steep. So in that process, we'll submit our plans. They'll include profile, site distances. DOT commonly asks us to meet on site to evaluate the actual site distance when there are concerns with site distance. There has been some concern expressed with site distance on Evanston. I think that'd be toward the west. And we have some options there with providing adequate site distance. It may be some grading, it may be some vegetation removal within the right of way. But we'll be working through all that with DOT as we go through that process. And I would imagine that would probably occur we'll start making those submittals probably the next weeks. Stormwater was mentioned. Yeah. So, our stormwater will be handled underground with underground detention, and it'll be in this area under these parking spaces. And will connect to, existing storm drainage system that's owned by DOT that goes under Evanston Road. And, that'll be something else that they'll be involved in reviewing is, our storm drainage and how we're discharging, since it is discharging to them. Kevin mentioned access. We are able to provide access in and out of the site, even with our truck traffic through the driveway on 321, in the event that we aren't able to get approval of the driveway from Evanston. And I think that will take us to Adrian and the building, but I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
Hey,
Can you go back to the site map, please? Where do you plan on drilling the well?
Will most likely be up in this area. And this is the right-of-way line. So we'll be 20 so feet off the right-of-way line.
So you don't have any idea of how much water capacity until you drill, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go back to my question that I asked earlier, if there'd been any consideration, one, about a right turn lane coming out the egress. And also it was brought to my attention that some people had mentioned, wouldn't it be safer if you had an ingress and egress there also, instead of trying to do a U-turn there at the red light and come down and turn so quickly back into your business right there?
Yeah, so for the first part of your question and you're talking about another turn lane here.
Correct.
Typically, additional lanes are warranted with numbers of trips and trips that are generated. And I would say it's not likely that DOT would require that because this is not a trip generating use. So that would be DOT's decision and discretion, but you know, just based on my experience, I don't see that likely. The second part with an ingress here, again, just based on my experience, we don't have a lot of distance from the signal to that driveway. So if someone turns in and then has to stop on Evanston to make a left in, then they're potentially blocking traffic back to the signal. So that would be DOT's concern with allowing a ingress there.
Okay, I just had people that were worried about so many U-turns right there, especially if you've got deliveries coming in. Also, any trucks would have to do a U-turn right there also to come back to, and that's not a long ways either, right down
Right.
to your driveway.
Yeah, we've done some auto turn movements on large truck traffic, and truck traffic won't be able to make that U-turn. They'll have to route around so that they're coming south on 321 to get to the site. Smaller delivery trucks, could possibly make that turn.
Well, you're using the term water well. And if we're able to furnish you Blowing Rock water, are you committed to using that?
But that would be a question for Jeff, and really the town. I would have to let them answer that question.
Okay, well,
That's a business.
maybe I
business
missed it.
decision.
You gonna have a decel lane going into the main entrance?
Well, if DOT requires that, I would not anticipate they would, just because of the far as the signal and the number of trips. This is actually a very low trip generating use.
Their call. Their call.
It would be.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm asking Jeff. I said if,
I guess,
Jeff,
think you're still up.
if.
You know, I think this is something that kind of, I don't know, I'll say it came out of left field. That's what it felt like. But we had to do quite a bit of research on our water needs as well as, just a lot of practical experience with drilling wells in the area. I actually started to like the idea of, having an artesian water source. But I didn't like it so much that the town water alternative didn't sound like a better alternative. So I think it just depends on the timing of how well this shakes out. You know, obviously I'm not privy to where that all stands. But our hope is that the town will succeed in enabling connections, there for us. The timing of that and when that occurs and how much maybe we have into the design and the infrastructure, I don't know if it's a couple weeks, I think that's great news. If it's a couple years, not so good, right? So we're going to be prepared for either alternative, I think. But we think the town of Blowing Rock has very good water. We're very proud of the freshwater sources here, so that would be our favored alternative. Okay.
That wasn't a question. Question is, if we are able to furnish you water in your time frame, are you going to use our water?
Assuming we don't already have a lot of invested into the infrastructure, I would say yes.
I mean, if we know in a month that we can say, yes, you can have water.
Okay. Well, then you've got a deal.
Well,
Yeah. I think as long as we know that that is no longer a contingency. I don't think I'd want to bet my business on another town's.
no.
It's just not.
If that were removed, we're okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And I might want to just see how the agreement reads.
Okay.
I hope that wouldn't be too much to ask, but
Fair enough.
we've got a substantial investment here that's not just in the bricks and mortar, but in our brand statewide. And I have a responsibility to our whole organization, our employees, to make sure we remain viable for a good long time. But it's a good question, and I'm glad it sounds like we're that close. So, thank you.
I'll ask the town manager this. So, in other words, if he's annexed, he doesn't have to hook on water if we have water running by him?
So given what Mr. Mosley weighed in, given the circumstances of the site and the water source things, was hesitating to answer. But if all parties were in agreement with allowing the use of water sources within the existing parcel and we annexed, then the typical response to that is absolutely water is used.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes. The timing of the annexation application would be within the next 60 days. And so there'll be a lot.
The annexation application, there's an agreement with that on the utility specific. There have been times where Blowing Rock Conference Center had an adequate well they annexed, really, instead of super. So we metered the well because they didn't need water. Water is not approved. We didn't know enough. Jeff trying to pursue going through the application. He said, I'd like to try with the well until we know everything about it. That was his
aim to get through this project. But you still have the step of annexation.
The annexation process will allow for that to be determined at that point.
Council. So continue with your presentation or?
Sure.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adrian Tate. I'm a resident of Boone, and I work at Sketchline Architecture here in Blowing Rock. So I'll be brief with my comments. Just to show you a little bit about the exterior of the building, we tried to create a design that was reminiscent of Blowing Rock, but also had its own new flavor to it as well. So you can see from the conceptual renderings here, we've got a combination of natural materials that Kevin mentioned earlier, including wood siding, stone, timbers, and the exterior of the building, we're using a lot of glass to daylight that space to the interior, and so this will be a feature as you're driving by, and when you're entering the parking lot, you'll actually be able to see some of that brewing equipment on the interior. Many of you might be familiar with this as you drive down I-40. You can see the Red Oak Brewery and some of their equipment as you go by. And then this large space here in the center is really where the tap house will be. So there's a relatively small tap house in here, and that will connect here to some of these outdoor spaces that you see as well for guest seating and so on. Hop through some of these other images. Kevin mentioned as well the landscaping on the site. So this is the view really from the intersection at 321 as you look up toward the building. So you can see this is kind of a modest level of growth in bushes and plantings there in the front. Even just a couple more trees in the building would almost be hidden behind that landscaping. So it just kind of tucks into the back of that site there. And as has been discussed already, we're kind of working around the constraints of that site. So there's front of the building, and you can see one of the proposed entrances here on this side. And this is the loading dock kind of hidden over here on the left-hand side. And again, lots of windows to really light that interior production space. Some of the materials that we're looking at right now, kind of a combination of wood, some architectural paneling, and then some board and batten siding, and then this use of these timbers and brackets across that upper loft area. And then this is sort of the flavor of the tasting room, ultimately, that we're going for that interior space. Questions or comments about the building itself?
Is the little bullet tank, is that, what is that?
That's actually the grain silo. Receiving grain, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, receiving grain is really best done outdoors. And so that's, periodically we'll get grain deliveries. So this piece of equipment here right on the sidewalk, you've probably seen them at other breweries if you've been to them.
Council? Good so far? Okay. Thank you, sir. You good?
Should be able to figure this out. Just a rendition of what we might do with solar. I think one thing we looked at early on was the town's comprehensive plan, and you all know it a lot better than I do, but I did read through the whole thing, and I was very impressed with the document, the forward-thinking nature of the document, and I think it's one of the reasons why the town of Blowing Rock remains so prosperous and vital today. But we've identified a few areas where we feel that our project aligns with the town's comprehensive plan here. And I think, the economic development and the tourism, that's not to be understated. I think we can have just a terrific effect on that type of, I don't know if Tracy is here, I don't see him, but Tracy with the TDA. But our industry is a great draw for people, within a 2 to 3 hour radius. And so, in that way, I think we align very well with the town's vision. And so, Mr. Young, I just wanted to readdress your question because it was a very, specific question. But the answer is yes, as long as we can, get through all the gray area in this thing, then I think, our intent would be, yes, we'd very much like to connect. And I appreciate everything that the town has done to make that possible, just given how this kind of came up. So much more clear and concise answer for you there that you deserved. Thank you.
Could you turn back, just for a second? I wanted to look at your hours of operation. I think you had them up there with your food pairings.
See, I'm trying to remember what slide that was on here. Here.
There.
Yeah, so we're not a late night place, We're I don't think any of Todd or myself have any interest in being in that kind of business. So others can do that. They do it much better than we would anyway. And so, we're very much an afternoon, lunchtime, afternoon, or evening establishment there. And we have to also remember that the primary purpose of this facility is, I think what we would call is beer processing or production. And so that's the primary. And then, but everybody likes to go and experience, brewery tours and taste the beers, that kind of thing, food pairings. And so the taproom aspect is a supporting role, which is more of a retail purpose there. And that, that's bound to produce tax revenue on close to $2 million in sales, their sales tax revenue, which, I think is something to consider as well.
So would you mainly do your food pairings from inside there? Or would you be taking?
We'll have a small food offering here. We won't do what we do at our ale house because we already do that at the ale house. So, but we will have a menu that pairs well with the beers that we produce. And I'm happy to answer any other questions too.
Good. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. And Mr. Greider, you have my apologies, and I didn't follow my notes like I should, so sorry about jumping ahead of the game. If you would just, that's okay. You would just state your name and your address, Mr. Greider.
Name's Roy Greider, and I live at 972 Edmiston Road. And my address may very well give you an idea of what I plan to say. I come before the council requesting that the permission to build a beer joint in my neighborhood be denied. I had an experience. First time I ever originated or even signed a petition. That I did, and I assume that you gentlemen and lady all received a copy of it and the names. I was very careful. I only approached people who live on Edmiston Road or own property on Edmiston Road. It had to be a neighborhood thing. I could have gotten a lot of names from a lot of people, other areas, but I chose not to, for the simple reason that I wanted it localized, our neighborhood. It was an interesting experience. I had at least two people who acknowledged being beer drinkers gladly signed my petition. Apparently, beer drinkers don't want a beer joint in their neighborhood either. But I oppose this because of the damage that beverage alcohol does to mankind. Received, found recently. And I should have sent it to you folks. A study by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, pointing out the amount of damage that beer drinking does. And they concentrated on males from the age of 15 to 39. And I don't remember the exact amount, but it was in ounces per week that would be acceptable without doing harm. And I apologize once again for not having gotten a copy of that to you. We could spend the night talking about this, the amount of studies that have been done that showing the harm of alcoholic beverage, the number of people that have suffered from it. I'll not do that. I will mention some of the things that have been asked me as I was, one has been discussed, one has been discussed, traffic on Edmiston Road. When skiing is in session, at the end of their daily sessions, it's not unusual for traffic to be backed up beyond my home. I'm half mile off 321. The traffic question has certainly not been settled, and it is a matter of great concern to a lot of people in my neighborhood. The question was asked me, what do you know about increase in property crime when a beer outlet is established? Well, I don't know anything about up or down, but it is something that is a matter of concern to my neighbors. People also ask me, what about property values? I talked to the gentleman at the tax office, and he said, we have no way of knowing what effect it would have on property values. But he pretty much led me to believe that there would be a definite impact. I think it's something that should be explored before this facility is allowed. So I come to you on behalf of my neighbors. I speak for them. I know I speak for them because they have very, very adamantly opposed this operation. And I respectfully request that you not allow this situation to occur for us.
Thank you, Mr. Grider, and thanks for everything you did for your community. I'm sure that your neighbors are very pleased. Right, moving right along, do we have someone else that would like to speak? Okay. I have a letter here. It was received from Dr. John Davis, and it reads, I'm out of town, so writing this letter, please forward to the mayor and town council members. Blowing Rock Brewing Company, reference Blowing Rock Brewing Company. I'm writing to express opposition to the open bar proposed. The property is maybe 100 yards from the intersection. Every week I pick up empty beer cans along the road and occasionally bottles. How many people are going to stop in for just one beer? We have too many drivers already under the influence and do not need to encourage that on a major highway. There will be additional traffic issues, what can be a very congested intersection. Traffic frequently backs up to my driveway on ski weekends. I doubt tractor trailers will be able to make U-turns if they arrive northbound. Since no entrance from Evanston Road is planned, I expect there will be ignored by some drivers. Finally, no alcohol is permitted at the ski slope. How many are going to stop to get buzzed before going to the rest of the way up the road? A death there some years ago was largely blamed on alcohol brought in by the skier. The company is certainly entitled to expand its brewing capacity, but we do not need to add to the risk of DUIs. Sincerely, Dr. John Davis. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Letter. Anyone else like to speak? Council, any thoughts before we move forward?
We need to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
First? Okay. Albert? Melissa? Doug?
Yes.
Okay, public hearing is now closed. Okay, council, what are your thoughts? Yes, Pete?
I'd like to have Shane outline the economic benefits that we've talked about that would accrue to the town, both, water, sewer. So could you go through those numbers, Shane, please?
Be happy to, be glad to. Couple questions. $2 million, okay to use for sales, is that sufficient? So on $2 million, sales tax, statewide is about $135,000. Locally, that would be about $40,000. There is a difference, obviously, in what's collected and what gets distributed at the state level, school system, et cetera, and what stays locally within that. But sales tax on $2 million would be $135,000 a year, with about $40,000 of that staying locally. Property taxes, I'm not sure if we have an estimate of a build out, but I can say for every $1 million in value at a current rate is about $4,000 in property taxes. So if it's a $5 million building, that'd be about $20,000 in town property taxes, not including county taxes. Theirs is about $3,200 per $1 million. So hypothetically, a $5 million building would be about $15,000 in property taxes. So about $35,000 or so per year with that, if we were using 5 million as a number. And then from a water standpoint, it was mentioned within the request a potential of use of 3,000 gallons a day. With that usage, that would put them within our top 10 water uses. As long as we're selling them water, they're utilizing our water system. And again, that would be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 15,000 or so a year in water sales to that.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Council, how would you like to go forward?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Now, this motion to approve the conditions that the waivers they requested.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have any further discussion? Albert? Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Before voting, I will say one thing. We'll find a final person, and the man that just spoke out here is Mr. Grider. I commend you for coming in here, and everything that you stand for, and everything that you said tonight. I vote yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Okay. So, it passes. Thank you, gentlemen. We wish you the best and success, and just please be careful. Mr. Grider, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
You ever consider non-alcoholic beer?
Yeah.
That's what I heard here.
Excuse me, do you want this back?
Doesn't mean that I haven't drank enough to float that building. Means I no longer do that.
Okay.
All right, moving right along, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we have, hi, what's your name?
Hey, did you hear me about the shade last day?
I think you can do that.
Okay. Under the regular agenda, Ice House lease. I think we need to put this one to rest, ladies and gentlemen. One way to. So do I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yep, I wanted to push that one through, all right.
I don't have to, but I did prepare something. If that's okay with everyone.
Yeah, sorry, Shay.
Turn the here. Let's see. This new setup's got sideways. Good evening, Mayor, Council. So our ice house, the town owns, located at 140 Maple Street. We have leased now for a number of years. The current lease expires 12/31/2022, so at the end of this calendar year. Little timeline here behind me that kind of goes back to the beginning. So on August the 15th, the town did begin soliciting bids for the lease of the ice house with a deadline of September the 2nd, 2022. That was our first deadline. At that point, we received 2 bids. In which we presented at the 9/13 council meeting. After discussion, the council decided to rebid the ice house lease, which we started on Friday, September the 16th. We closed the second bid process on Friday, September the 30th, receiving again 2 bids, the exact same 2 bids. They did change somewhat. And we're here tonight to discuss those 2 bids and the details of those 2 bids. These 2 are not any order other than the order they were received. So the first bid that was received by Studio M, which is a hair salon with some retail products that are being sold, was received on Friday the 30th at 9:58 a.m. It's a proposal. The proposal states it is an open year-round business, Monday through Friday, 10 to 6, Saturday, 9 to 1. It is a 3-year lease is what's been requested, up to 5 years with options to renew after that at $1,100 per month. The second bid that was received is from Take Heart, doing business as Deeply Rooted. It's a retail store slash nonprofit design studio. It was received on the same day, Friday the 30th at 1:44 p.m. We had a 2 p.m. deadline. Proposal is to be open year round, Monday through Saturday, 10 to 6. With a 3-year lease term that's requested at $1,251 a month for the first year, $1,276 a month for the second year. No 3rd-year term or amount was given within that. So just to recap of what we discussed last month, as part of the proposal and the evaluation criteria, we did list several things, not just monthly rent, compatibility of the proposed use in downtown, history of the business, consistency of the proposed business and operation hours, with evening hours getting preference, number of months of operation, again, with year-round preference, the type of business with retail getting preference, and then the proposed lease rate. So tonight I'm here asking for direction and action to move forward. If you recall, last month we did discuss North Carolina General Statute 160A 272 that does require public hearings. So whatever decision that's made tonight, we would need to have direction of exactly what lease terms that you all are bidding on and accepting. Then would have a 30-day period in which on November the 8th would allow us to get back here at our next meeting and have a public hearing and formally adopt the lease in which you all take action on tonight. So I'd be glad to answer any questions. Just wanted to kind of do the recap there for those that weren't here last month and then give an update on the details of the proposals that we did receive.
Council?
To clarify, Take Heart is asking for 2 years, is it your
It is asking for 3 years, but it was only 2 years were listed with amounts. So the proposal is asking for 3 years.
Okay.
The Studio M is also asking for a 3-year lease up to 5, so either 3 years or longer, up to 5 years, with a renewal option as well as being asked for there.
Now, and to answer your answer David's question, say that again, 2 year. Is that a fatal?
No, sir, I don't think so. So the two bids are very similar. Both are asking for multi-year leases. Both are asking for 3-year lease terms. So one just proposed a different amount for year 1 and year 2, did not give a proposal for year 3. My assumption is year 3 would be either determined by you all or it would be the same as year 2. The first bid simply has a standard lease amount for all 3 years.
And the second does.
The second has 2 lease amounts, one for year 1 and one for year 2, an increase of $25 per month.
Okay.
These are, again, just based on the proposals that we received. So, again, staff is asking for direction to move forward for us to be able to publicly advertise what those lease terms are and with the tenant that's being proposed, so we could have a public hearing next month.
Council?
I'll move that we approve Studio M.
Second.
Any further discussion?
And the terms that were outlined in the proposal.
So your motion is you're in agreement with the terms that they presented,
Right.
and you agree with that second, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss it. I'm going to kind of reiterate what I said last meeting, was that these are both very fine businesses. And and I think it's incumbent upon us to look at this for what's best for the taxpayers and what's best for the town. And when I do that, take heart over those 3-year periods, it's a difference of $6,036 in rent rates. $6,000 more for Take Heart than Studio M. The second point that I would make is that we did ask for a preference toward a retail business. And although Studio M does have retail products, I think that it would be more categorized as a service business. So in my opinion, Take Heart seems to be the better choice.
Thank you, David. Any comments, Melissa? We move forward. Doug? Oh, sorry.
No.
No. Doug?
Yes.
Anything? Yes, no, maybe?
He has his calculator out.
No.
You want to defer to Shane?
Yeah. Defer to Shane.
Okay.
Defer to
All
Shane.
right.
For what?
Do we need any more numbers? I mean, Melissa said you had your calculator on.
Right.
Okay. Okay. All right, we have a motion, we have a first, we have a second. Albert?
Repeat the vote, the motion.
Pete made the motion to accept Studio M with the terms outlined in her contract.
David?
No.
Melissa?
No.
Doug?
Aye.
Pete?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so tentatively, it is agreed upon to accept Studio M, but of course, that will come up for public hearing on November 8th.
Correct.
At which time the public will be able to voice their pros and cons, or whatever.
So we will do a typical public hearing, so we will announce it starting tomorrow. The clerk put that out for the public. The town intends to enter into a 3-year lease agreement with Studio M at the proposed rate, give the terms, when it begins, when it ends, and rule out for the public to have a chance to participate next month during that public hearing.
Okay. All righty. All right, we had a change on our regular agenda. That would be adding the capital equipment and police cars, tippers, et cetera. Shane?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thank you for adding this tonight. Unfortunately, we did try twice to bid this process. That's why we had a delay. So every year, as part of the annual budget process, we do present to town council, and you did approve this year for our additions, then our capital equipment, our vehicles, and our personal equipment that we plan on moving forward with during the 22-23 year. We typically do an installment loan of either 3 years or 4 years to help fund that. It helps smooth out the payments over the 3 or 4 year period. That service standpoint, we normally send out bids to our area banks. This year, like a lot of in the last few years, we've sent those bids or solicited bids from those banks. This year, we had 9 banks that we contacted. Unfortunately, after 2 attempts of receiving or soliciting bids, we only received 1 bid from First Citizens Bank. It was 4.5 to 3% interest rate over a 4 year term. No other banks responded. We did talk with a number of banks. Short staffing was a concern that they had, putting together proposals for servicing the debt, along with simply us just not fitting within some maybe their current loan criteria that they're looking for. So this is the lowest number of bids. Of course, you can't get lower than 1 other than 0 that we've had in a number of years. Unfortunately, if you recall, last year we did receive over, I think, a half dozen responses, and our lowest rate was 1.2%. So this is obviously an indication that the market has changed substantially in the last year. So our recommendation after 2 attempts is to move forward with the 1 bid that we did receive, which is from First Citizens Bank, 4 year lease term, $660,000 over that 4 year period at 4.53% interest. And again, what we're asking for tonight is not approval of the purchase of this equipment. You've already done that as part of the budget process. This is approval of the finance, which a resolution was provided to you earlier today, and I do have that as well. It could read, but I'm not sure that it's necessary to read the details of that resolution. It simply states the terms that are presented here in front of you and is asking for action tonight to move forward.
Unless Albert's gonna cut loose some money at a lower rate, I guess, it's up to you guys, man.
When Hades freezes solid.
What do you think might be the reason that we only received bids?
I can't speak for every bank. The ones that we spoke with that normally would have bid, we did have a couple that had staffing concerns with simply putting together the response or servicing the loan. There were some concerns there, we were told, and then others simply said that we didn't fit within their current portfolio of what they're looking for. So it's unusual. We've not had this issue. Nothing that the town has changed or done differently on our behalf.
I just
don't have a great answer.
I hope this, it's not really a trend because this is something that we do almost on a regular basis.
Absolutely. It's annual. That's correct.
So it's, I hate to see that we're only going to have maybe 1 bank every year to choose from, or maybe no banks. At least in this area, did we put it within a certain distance?
We did. So all of your major banks, BB&T, First Citizens, all the major banks that have regional approaches, we bid as well. Of course, with our local banks here, Highlands, First Union, or First United. Yeah. So those typical ones locally and regional. So we did. When I say our local banks, I mean our local branches. Is how we approach that from soliciting bids.
Make a motion if it had been made.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
Further discussion?
There could be Florida exposure here. Banks. It's going to impact all of that. And not to mention insurance.
Certainly.
All right, we have a first, we have a second. Any further discussion? Albert?
Yes.
Melissa?
Aye.
Duncan? And Pete?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Moving on to officials' reports and comments. Well, as mayor, I would like to extend my deepest thoughts and prayers for those people in Florida and North Carolina that sustained so much damage and, of course, loss of life. And so I know that they're in our hearts and our prayers, and I wish them the best moving forward, and I hope they can rebuild and get back to where they need to be. I've seen small things happen in our community, and our community jumps to the plate and everybody bonds together. And that's what makes us one, and that's what makes us a special place to live. So I thank our citizens for those that have assisted with issues that have taken place, and thank you so much. That's really all I have. Albert?
Just ask the manager if he knows the timeline for the signal at Green Hill Road at 321.
That's right.
The mayor would like to.
They're going to have the signal, the stanchions or the poles are supposed to be in a week to 2 weeks, and then they're going to install them the first to second week of November. That's the timeline DOT set. I think this year.
Additionally, I've discussed this with Shane, but I'm not sure the public knows about all the missing speed limit and other signs around town. Do you identify the culprit?
Same entity, so the DOT has made us aware that some of our signs that have been placed up over the last few years aren't in current compliance with the sign ordinance at the state level. So we are soon to be replacing those. They've been replaced by DOT. We just need to install the replacement signs.
So they got caught the hand in the cookie jar. Yeah. Well, a lot of people ask.
Certainly.
David?
I don't have any comments.
Melissa?
I'm good.
Doug?
I'd just like to offer also a couple of condolences. One to the family of Jerry Hapser. Jerry worked here for the town for many, many years. One of the best caretakers that we ever had down there at the cemetery. He passed away today, and also like to send Mayor Joe Gibbons in Lenore. He had quadruple bypass surgery. They rushed him to the hospital Saturday. It's more of an ever in town. So anyway,
He's what, Doug? He's what?
had quadruple
Is he
bypass.
living? He's alive.
Yes.
Okay.
Pete?
Just a short shout out to Melissa and I for coming up on 1 year anniversary of serving on the council. I think that was good so far.
Do you want to wait until your time back from Italy? Or are you going to start?
No, I'm not going to Italy this year.
Okay, I was just checking.
Secondly, a number of us went to the candidate forum last week. Charlie was there, Shane was there, Melissa was there, Doug was there, and a lot of discussion about housing, and which I thought was good. There was somebody from the board down there, Larry Tumble, who made the comment, but he was in touch with a number of people up here in Blowing Rock as to working on it. Well, it wasn't me, it wasn't Doug, it wasn't Melissa, so I'm not sure.
At least two of you.
So that leaves two of you. But I will assure you that when I get seated in January on the Economic Development Commission, that I'll certainly look into all the options on housing and report back to you so we can have a better understanding of what's going on. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Mr. Mosley. Okay. Mr. Fox.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. A few updates. The TDA audit is complete and the draft of the audit is within staff's hands of review. So that's good news. The town audit is in process and should be complete hopefully later this month. So that is a new audit firm working diligently through that process. So far, no issues with them, just a lot of information to work through, but that process is well underway. Our Oak Street work that you approved just last month should be completed either tomorrow or the next day. Should be in the next couple of days. That work's completed. Melissa's looking at me with concerns. So that's based on my report. That is what I'm being told. Town did have a good meeting with the new division engineer at DOT last week. Michael Poe is taking Michael Pettyjohn's place. And so he is our local division engineer for District 11. So town has met with him and discussed upcoming projects, most notably the Main Street project and what that will entail, along with some other potential options the town may have working with DOT from taking over some DOT streets, et cetera. And so that conversation went really well. Tomorrow we do have our local third graders at Blowing Rock Elementary School coming at 12 o'clock to meet with town staff and find out what we do. And well, we may have a fire truck or a police car for them to wander through as part of that process. So all department heads will be available tomorrow at lunchtime to meet with our third graders as they're learning some civics lessons and how the world works. So we're excited about that. And other than that, I'll save everything else for closed session, unless you have questions for me.
What are you doing now? Did you retire?
Yes, sir. Yeah. A number of people, Division 11, retired June 30th. So they've got a number of new faces down there. Michael Poe is the new division engineer, and he comes to us most recently from Shelby, from Cleveland County.
Doc, did you ever sign off? Who you?
Yes. So I've confirmed with Mr. Chapman back here that the Gabion basket should be in about 1 to 2 weeks, and that will begin. So apparently we've had some more delay with the Gabion basket. So
What's the longer, Bass Lake sidewalk or this little piece over here?
Bass Lake sidewalk. So that was fair to say. That's confirmed. Next couple of weeks. Yes. Yeah.
Or that the Bass Lake sidewalk, no, either way.
Both confirmed.
This we got all got done at the same time, man.
True.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Then we're going to be going into closed session. And there might be a decision of some sort once we come out of closed session. Not privy to say because I don't know. But so you are welcome to come back after we conclude closed session. Thank you for coming this evening. See you guys. Thanks.